He had faced gunfire without flinching. He had walked through deserts where the heat melted resolve and jungles where shadows carried death. But nothing, prepared him for the moment he saw the dog. The Navy SEAL froze mid-step on a crowded city sidewalk, the world around him fading into a distant blur. Cars passed. People whispered. Somewhere, a siren wailed. But all he could see was the frail, trembling body lying against the concrete, ribs protruding, fur dull, eyes once sharp now clouded with exhaustion. And when those tired eyes slowly lifted and locked onto his, recognition flickered like the last spark of a dying flame. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unbreakable bond between a soldier and his dog, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who loves animals, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us what loyalty truly means. Chief Petty Officer Daniel Mercer had returned home 6 months earlier after 15 years of service. His body carried scars, but it was the quiet spaces in his mind that hurt the most. Sleep came in fragments. Loud noises still made his muscles tense. He had lost friends, brothers, and though he rarely spoke about it, the weight of survival pressed heavily on him. But through the darkest missions of his career, there had always been one steady presence at his side, Rex. Rex wasn't just a military working dog. He was a legend within their unit. A Belgian Malinois with unmatched instinct, trained to detect explosives, track insurgents, and protect his handler at all costs. Together, they had completed 7 deployments. They had kicked down doors under moonless skies. They had moved through enemy territory with silent precision. Rex once detected a hidden IED that saved not only Daniel's life but the lives of 12 others. Another time, the dog took shrapnel meant for him. When Rex retired 3 years ago after an injury, Daniel had wanted to adopt him immediately. But paperwork, reassignment, and then an overseas deployment delayed everything. He was told Rex had been placed in a temporary foster program while awaiting permanent placement. Daniel trusted the system. He believed someone would care for the dog who had given everything. He was wrong. Now here he was, standing in the middle of downtown, staring at the skeletal outline of the very partner who once charged fearlessly into danger. Rex's once muscular frame had wasted away. His collar was frayed, barely hanging on. The proud stance was gone. In its place was cautious stillness. Daniel dropped to his knees without thinking. The crowd gathered, whispering, confused by the sight of a decorated veteran in civilian clothes cradling the head of what looked like a stray. But to Daniel, this wasn't a stray. This was family. His hands trembled as he gently lifted Rex's face. The dog's tail thumped weakly against the pavement. That small movement shattered whatever composure Daniel had left. Years of discipline dissolved in seconds. Tears streamed down his face, hot, unstoppable. He had seen destruction overseas. He had held dying men. But seeing Rex like this broke something deeper. He whispered apologies under his breath, blaming himself for not checking sooner, for trusting a process he should have followed up on personally. Rex had searched for him, no doubt. Dogs like Rex didn't forget. They waited. They believed their handler would come. Daniel carefully lifted the frail dog into his arms. Rex weighed far less than he should have. People stepped aside silently as Daniel carried him to his truck. A woman in the crowd wiped her eyes. Someone muttered that the dog looked starved. Daniel didn't respond. His focus was singular: get Rex help. The veterinarian confirmed what Daniel already feared. Severe malnutrition. Dehydration. Muscle atrophy. Early signs of organ stress. The vet asked how long the dog had been on the streets. Daniel couldn't answer without his voice cracking. He signed every form, approved every treatment, and stayed by Rex's side through the night. As fluids slowly entered the dog's fragile body, Daniel sat in the dim clinic room and remembered. He remembered the first day they met. Rex was barely 2 years old, eyes alert and assessing. Their bond had not formed instantly. It had been built through trust, repetition, shared risk. Daniel had learned Rex's signals, the subtle shift in posture that meant danger, the quiet growl that signaled detection. Rex had learned Daniel's heartbeat, his scent, his voice in chaos. They had saved each other more times than anyone knew. Over the next several days, Daniel refused to leave the clinic except to shower and change. He slept in a chair. He hand-fed Rex small portions as instructed. He talked to him constantly, recounting memories as if reminding both of them who they were. But healing wasn't immediate. Rex struggled to stand. His legs trembled under his own weight. There were moments Daniel feared he was too late. Guilt became a constant companion. How had the foster system failed so badly? Where had Rex been all this time? Investigations would come later. Right now, survival mattered. On the 4th day, something shifted. When Daniel entered the room that morning, Rex attempted to lift his head higher than before. His eyes seemed clearer. When Daniel placed his hand near his muzzle, Rex pushed gently into his palm, a deliberate gesture, not reflex. Daniel smiled through tears. Recovery was slow and painstaking. Back home, Daniel transformed his small backyard into a safe rehabilitation space. Soft grass replaced gravel. A shaded area provided comfort. He researched K-9 nutrition, consulted specialists, and followed a strict recovery plan. Physical therapy sessions became their new missions. At first, Rex could only walk a few steps before collapsing. Daniel supported him with a harness, encouraging, steady. Some neighbors watched quietly from behind curtains. Word had spread about the soldier and his dog. A few began dropping off care packages, high-quality dog food, supplements, even handmade blankets. Daniel rarely asked for help. But this time, he accepted it. As weeks passed, the ribs became less visible. Muscle slowly returned. The dull coat regained a faint sheen. The spark in Rex's eyes grew stronger each day. Yet the biggest change wasn't physical. It was emotional. Daniel began sleeping better. The nightmares that once jolted him awake started to lessen. Caring for Rex gave him structure, purpose beyond himself. Each small milestone, a longer walk, a stronger bark, a wagging tail, felt like victory. One afternoon, nearly 2 months into recovery, Daniel took Rex to a quiet park. He kept expectations low, unsure how the dog would respond to open space again. The sun filtered warmly through trees. Children played at a distance. The air smelled of cut grass. Daniel unclipped the leash but kept a steady hand near the harness. Rex stood still at first, sniffing the breeze. Then, cautiously, he took a few independent steps. His pace was slow but determined. And then something remarkable happened. A tennis ball rolled near them from a nearby group. Rex's ears twitched. Instinct ignited. He looked at Daniel, as if asking permission. Daniel nodded, heart pounding. Rex broke into a short, uneven trot, not the lightning-fast sprint of his prime, but enough. He reached the ball, picked it up gently, and turned back. When he placed it at Daniel's feet, tail wagging with genuine joy, Daniel felt the final piece of his broken spirit mend. The crowd that had quietly observed from afar began clapping softly. Some wiped tears. They weren't just witnessing a dog fetch a ball. They were watching resilience. Redemption. Daniel later learned that Rex had been passed between temporary homes after budget cuts affected the foster program. A final placement had fallen through. Paperwork errors left him unclaimed. Somewhere along the way, oversight turned into neglect. Daniel filed formal complaints, but more importantly, he took responsibility for ensuring no other retired K-9 would slip through the cracks. He partnered with local veterans and animal welfare groups to create a support network specifically for retired military working dogs. Awareness campaigns began. Donations increased. Policies started being reviewed. Rex became the face of the initiative. Months later, a small ceremony was held in the same downtown square where Daniel had first found him. This time, the atmosphere was different. A banner read, "Honor our heroes, both human and K-9." Veterans stood proudly. Families gathered. News cameras recorded quietly. Rex, now healthier and stronger, wore a new collar, engraved with his name and years of service. Daniel knelt beside him, not in despair, but in gratitude. When Daniel was invited to speak, he kept it simple. He spoke about loyalty that doesn't fade with retirement. About responsibility that doesn't end with paperwork. About bonds forged in sacrifice. Rex sat calmly at his side, occasionally looking up at him with unwavering trust. Before we reach the final moments of this story, take a second to comment the word loyalty below if this journey has touched your heart so far. Your engagement helps these powerful stories reach more people who need to hear them. Time has a way of testing everything. But some bonds refuse to break. A year after that heartbreaking day on the sidewalk, Daniel and Rex had established a routine filled with peace rather than chaos. Morning walks. Therapy sessions at a local VA center, where Rex now visited veterans struggling with trauma. The once starving dog had become a source of comfort for others battling invisible wounds. Men who hadn't spoken in weeks would kneel to pet him. Women with haunted eyes would soften at his gentle nudge. Rex seemed to understand pain. He had lived it. And in helping others heal, both dog and handler found something deeper than survival. They found purpose. On a quiet evening, Daniel sat on his porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. Rex lay beside him, head resting on Daniel's boot. The air was calm. No sirens. No shouting. Just stillness. Daniel ran his fingers through Rex's thick fur, remembering that first devastating sight, the ribs, the weakness, the fear that he had lost his partner forever. Now, the dog breathing steadily beside him was living proof that love, when acted upon, can pull someone back from the edge. Rex shifted slightly, pressing closer. Daniel didn't know how many years they had left together. Military working dogs age faster than we'd like. But he knew one thing with certainty: Rex would never be alone again. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of loyalty and second chances, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more real, heart-touching stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Because sometimes heroes don't wear medals. Sometimes they walk on four legs. And sometimes, when a Navy SEAL breaks down in the middle of a crowded street, it isn't weakness. It's love coming home.